What's going on, everybody? It is March 4th, 2024. Day log episode over NQ and the live stream review. So I hope you guys enjoyed today. I know that live streams like today are boring to some, and to some of you, it's entertaining. You like being in those environments where I'm encouraging you to be patient. I'm encouraging you to sit still, not do anything, because there's a multitude of reasons why we sit out of those environments. I know there's some people that they want to trade in them and they may thrive in them. I personally don't, and I think a vast majority of all of you don't, right? So there's a select few that obviously there's some comments today about it, and that's fine. But overall, you got to see where staying out of today is far better than trying to push inside of an environment that's just not in your favor. There's not really clear one-sided runs. It's not very easy to be inside of the position and hold on to it. It's very back and forth, very consolidational. So these days are easy to predict, at least in my eyes. It's not extremely difficult. If you want to know the reasonings for it is, well, we had a large range day on Friday coming into a Monday with no economic news driver events. Coupled with that on top of it is look at where we're at on the daily time frame, especially the weekly time frame. We've created all-time highs rolling into a Monday, and there's no clear direction. I insisted on the idea that we could possibly see lower prices today, and I was predicting, if you go back to the weekly forecast yesterday, I was predicting the daily time frame to do what? Form a bullish fair value gap in here. Go back to the weekly forecast yesterday. I predicted this, and it's not difficult to do so. I guess a way you could do that is if you're in a bullish or bearish narrative or prices seeking either side and you just made a new high or a new low, I'm anticipating that the following day is probably going to be setting up some type of fair value gap. It's not just going to immediately run off higher or lower. So more or less experience is going to teach you that. But hopefully, if you go back to yesterday's weekly forecast, or at least you were there and watched it, you're able to see how I was able to predict that. It was spot on. And this is what we're getting today. And looking at the weekly profile, kind of aligning my predictions for the week, setting the low of the week in a Tuesday or Wednesday inside of a daily bullish fair value gap seems reasonable, right? So if you look at the weekly time frame, so far it's panning out to what I would like is the first 2 days, especially if you're looking at the power of three, is you're looking for the weekly candle to move oppositely than where it's going to actually expand towards. Excuse me. So if you're expecting higher prices this week, the weekly candle on a Monday or Tuesday / Wednesday can roll into that, possibly Thursday, but mainly you want those first 2 or 3 days. You want the weekly candle to be manipulating, per se, the opposite way of whatever is going to unfold the rest of the week. So this is what I'm anticipating is maybe tomorrow / Wednesday, we'll see, is going to be setting the low of the week inside of what? A higher time frame inefficiency or PD array. So this is our down close candle. What is that? Bullish order block. If we rally down into that, then we can rally higher, move above the weekly open, and expand higher. Everything is still in line for higher prices. If something switches and it's not aligning, then obviously we have to adjust accordingly. But for now, that's what I have to lean on. We're inside of a daily bullish fair value gap here. This should hold. This should be the last point of interest. Price is going to move higher. This should hold. And we should do what? Attack Friday's high or / today Monday's high, because that's the actual highest high so far. Going into the 4-hour chart, look at this inefficiency here. We can move down into this. I'd prefer not to. And this is what I mean is you have to be aware of both sides. It's not playing 50-50. It's not calling both sides. It's just being aware of either bias. And if something isn't aligning, if we just start trading through this inefficiency in here and even the daily, then obviously if I come into the morning session tomorrow and we're just trading off lower, well, then I have to kind of abandon that bullish idea I was originally going with. And then I just go into whatever price is doing. I get myself aligned. If it by then the morning session we've collapsed lower overnight, the bullish bias is no longer valid, okay, then I just get in line with whatever is printing. It doesn't mean I'm bad as an analyst. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means that I followed rules. I didn't trade overnight, didn't do what I was, not supposed to do. Looking at the 1 hour time frame, I mentioned this inefficiency down here, which I stated yesterday. I would have preferred it to stay open, but still not a bad retracement from this dealing range low up to the current high. We're reaching down into a discount. So CJ, what is a high probability fair value gap? Well, for the most part, you want to be looking for inefficiencies, fair value gaps, any PD array that really is inside of a discounted premium relative to what's happening. So if we're in a bullish institutional order flow, then I should be looking at inefficiencies beneath equilibrium. So find your dealing range. This is the most recent swing low up to the swing high. Price is reaching down into a discount. Now for me, I don't have any type of emotion or fear that just because at this current time where we're printing, my time it's 9:30, but I don't fear missing this. If this moved off higher, I don't fear any of it. I'm not willing to participate in it right now because it's not my time zone. It's not my set of rules. I know come silver bullet, more than likely there's going to be a setup. So you have to get used to that. If you fear, especially if you're an Asian session that's moving into some type of PD area, like, man, like I'm gonna miss this move overnight and I'm gonna be asleep and I'm gonna miss the move, and it's okay, man. It's perfectly okay. Things are going to be there tomorrow. The market's going to be here more than likely during the silver bullet. Your entry pattern is going to be there. There's no reason to worry about these things, right? And I get it because I'm worried about the same things. So I try to relate. I try to bring myself back. But you have to understand, look at how much patience I have throughout every single week. If you get into the mindset of what I'm doing is I don't have a lot of fear. Fear creates FOMO, which FOMO creates you breaking discipline and rules and getting into stupid trades. So if you're able to see this and I'm able to lend you this patience and this experience, you should be able to trust it a little bit more. You should be able to trust your patience and trust my patience and lean on that. If you can't lean on your own, lean on mine. It's okay. So if we collapse underneath this, if we close underneath this, that's the last point of interest. If I see by tomorrow morning or even during, the first 30-minute window, if we collapse underneath it, we close, well, that's it for me personally. At that point in time, I'd be looking for lower prices. That would invalidate the bullish market structure to me. Even though these down close candles you could count as a bullish order block, this to me is really the last point of interest. That would be a very, very deep retracement. And at that point of time, especially if we're closing underneath this, we're nearing the point of reaching into sell side. We're near in proximity to sell side rather than buy side up here. So I'm going to have to judge and see what happens. If we're already moving off higher, then everything's aligned. And by come New York session, if we haven't attacked this high here, then I'd just be looking to go long and attack the high up there. It's really that simple. So that's the way I view things, especially in a higher time frame. And here, I mean, look at the session today. And really what happened was at the end of the day, we started to just roll off heavily to the downside. And typically that does happen on a market on close macro is if the whole day's been consolidating, especially AM/PM, the market on close is going to move a lot. And to some people today would have been fantastic. I personally, I have to get used to people making those comments. It's hard for me. I'm a human. I do struggle with that. And I do it because when people say, you're not doing anything, this comment in particular has irritated me the last couple of weeks is I came into your stream and you haven't done anything, which is just false because you all know if you've been watching for the last 2 months, obviously I've done something every single week. So that's not true. And it just irritates me because I don't want people to believe that you should be doing something in these environments. Even for somebody who's more experienced, I don't think this is favorable. I think if you played this out over a course of a year and you force somebody to trade in side of these environments, I don't think they're going to be profitable. You may have, a couple of short bursts of being profitable in these conditions and you're like, wow, like I can really do this. But the conditions, the probabilities and the variables of you doing that over a long period of time, to me, it just doesn't seem reasonable. So, and again, I go back to this analogy is if I only had one bullet for the whole week, like let's say you only had one bullet in your gun and I could only shoot it once this week. Well, I'm not wanting to shoot it inside of this profile. I'm more or less a 1 to 2 trade type of, ideally 1 to 2 trades a week. If I can do that, that's all I need to do. I don't need to do a whole bunch more. So I'm trying to place that bullet, that perfect bullet and the perfect time and the perfect window and the perfect trade setup. And that's all I need to be doing. I'm not trying to trade in slop and filth. Like, to me, that's what was happening today. People are just fighting over a bunch of breadcrumbs on the floor. It's like, sure, have it. Go have fun. For me, that's just not worth it. It's not worth my mental capital. But when things are moving in a large range like last week and it's easy, at least on Friday to me, I thought it was easy. That's what I want to be participating in. It's super easy to see that. The runs are easy. I don't have to spend a lot of mental capital, being in drawdown, a price just being lethargic. Again, I place these values, I place it in a lot more significance than, trading in this. So hopefully you guys were able to understand that and see that today. I've traded in these conditions a lot. I've forced myself. If you put a gun to my head and I had to trade today, I'm sure I could have done it, but I probably wouldn't have been profitable. I'm sure I may have got a trade or two in there that might have been worked out okay, but I don't have a gun to my head. I don't have to force myself to do that. Neither do you. So it's really, really important. I'm really emphasizing this so people understand it. I know it's redundant and it's over and over again, but that's how trading is. It's over and over and over again. The same things are going to be said. I have to imprint it into your mind. So when I'm not here, when I'm not with you, then it is constantly referred back into your head. It's what ICT did for us. Right. So looking at the AM session after I got off the live session, this was rolling into basically the PM session. PM session ended up taking out the sell side in here. This is the current new week opening gap, and we're utilizing basically the CE of it. And if you go down to a 1 minute, there really wasn't that many ideas in here for me to want to trade upon. I mean, I don't want to be trading in this. It's like barcoding to me. It's just moving back and forth. I mean, sure, you can get in these little pockets, these little runs. But I mean, somebody said this today where they took this inversion setup. But to me, why would I deem this lower probability? Well, we didn't take out sell side. You created relative equal lows. So why would I be trading a inversion fair value gap after we just left relative equal lows? We could very well trade off into that. So to me, I don't want to trade that. That's not a setup to me. Oh, there's bullish S&T. Well, that doesn't deem a probability setup to me. It doesn't deem high probability. If we ran sell side displaced higher, then yeah, that would be like, okay, it's a decent setup. Again, what's the profile, time of day, time of week? What's the narrative on the higher time frames? It's just nothing's really aligned. Markets were decoupled. So the trading's still personal, but if you want to take advice from somebody who's actually profitable, then don't trade this. I'm just going to annotate, what happened today. As far as what happened after, I actually thought that we were going to send price higher into buy side. And this is where in these conditions, my predictions are going to be wrong. I'm going to be off. I think a lot of people, when they saw this run higher, they're looking at these inefficiencies in here. They may have, been trying to go higher, to attack buy side in here. They got stopped out. Trying to go short in here. I mean, look at the delivery. After we dropped off lower, you were turning back into it, just a sloppy delivery. Don't even run the sell side in here. We have a full outright reversal all the way back up into the CE of the new week opening gap. Some people trying to short down here into the sell side. That didn't work out for them, stopped out. People trying to reverse to try to go long. I mean, it's a complete mess. You can really, really hurt yourself on these days, really terribly. That's why I don't encourage it. I'm sure many of you probably hurt yourself today, and it's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but if you're learning from it, you're understanding what I'm saying, you don't want to repeat those mistakes, then learn from what I'm saying. Learn what I'm doing, because I've hurt myself terribly in these conditions. It's not fun. So it's the reason why I stay away from them. After we took out sell side, there's a couple, I'm just going to annotate on lower time frames. If you go down to 1 minute for your homework, there's a couple decent entries in here where you could have ran higher to attack buy side. At that point in time, I mean, as soon as we get above the new week opening gap, I would have elected to believe that we were going to run for buy side in here. I wasn't even at the charts, but looking at hindsight, I mean, I know it's easy to say, but in here, if I was to reel it back, I probably would have elected to believe at this moment in time we would have ran for buy side. I would not have seen the sell side being ran again, because we've ran sell side, displaced higher, attacked buy side, and price dropping off lower again. I would have been blindsided by that. And how do I prevent myself from taking loss? Well, I understand the profile, time of week, the day. The precision is not going to be there for me. My predictions are not going to be right. So the best bet, the best, move on the chessboard is to do nothing. That's the way I see it. So overall, I hope you guys are able to see that. These days are so important. They're so important. If you're able to stay out of it and do nothing, man, you're going to make leaps and bounds in your trading. If you're able to exit this type of condition out of your trading, just you're not trading any of this mess, then guess what? You're eliminating a lot of work for yourself. You're taking a lot of workload off yourself. Because imagine if you traded in this today, you took 1, 2, 3 losses in this. Now I have to make back the losses I just made inside of this condition when it wasn't even worth it. And if you wanted it, I mean, congrats. But guess what? I could do 2x the amount of, points that happened today. I could do 2, 3 times X tomorrow. And I don't even have to work that hard. I mean, again, I'm trying to value, I want to do the least amount of work for the most amount of profit. I don't want to work so hard for little profit. I mean, the range was so little. What's the point of going for 15, 20 handles? I mean, I want to be going for 50, 70, 80 handle runs. If I can get that, those are really, really good days. So hopefully this daily log was insightful. Hopefully you're able to learn something from it. I think that's going to be it for today. I'll be live tomorrow, 15 minutes before the open. And until then, good luck and good trading, everybody. Be safe.